Small business bankruptcies are up 61% on the year. It is a cacklenomics miracle. The data comes from bankruptcy analyst Epic, who reports that commercial filings for Chapter 11 bankruptcy soared to 4,553 so far this year. That is up 61% on last year. Meanwhile, total corporate bankruptcies are also rising, hitting the highest since the pandemic, according to S&P Global Market Intelligence. That is especially hitting hard in retail, with a parade of chains going under this year, including Red Lobster and its beloved Endless Shrimp. Never forget what they have taken from us. So what's causing it? Simple. Inflation, high interest costs, and COVID loans. Inflation, of course, drives up business costs to the point they have to hike prices. That then chases away customers. High rates, meanwhile, are well known to strangle business. In fact, that's why the Fed does them, to strangle household and business spending, enough that federal spending has inflation all to itself. And then the COVID loans. So during the pandemic, the Small Business Administration pumped out 4 million loans worth about $380 billion in so-called economic injury disaster loans. Note, these were separate from the PPP loans, where $800 billion was handed out to bribe voters into lockdowns. While many of the PPP loans were fraudulent, actually most of them according to NPR, 96% of those loans were forgiven. Incidentally, one gang member recently killed a Baltimore shootout had it turned out an outstanding PPP loan for a nanotech company. Not a joke. Thing is, the $380 billion in injury loans actually do have to be paid back, and it turns out a lot of companies can't. So 80% are still outstanding. That's $300 billion. So we're probably just seeing the tip of the injury loan bankruptcies. Alas, it is not just small business. Inflation and high rates strangle everybody. According to the American Bankruptcy Institute, total corporate bankruptcies jumped 34% on the year, while corporate bankruptcies year-to-date just hit the highest since 2010, when we were still crawling out of the 2008 crisis. By the way, that exceeds bankruptcies during the height of COVID. Now, as you'd expect, the worst hit were consumer discretionary, meaning restaurants, hotels, clothing, and media. In other words, stuff you don't actually need, which is pretty much how recessions work. We've already had 17 restaurant chains go under so far this year, including Red Lobster, Rubio's, Tijuana Flats, and even the World of Beer. Never forget what else they have taken from us. Finally, individual bankruptcies. These two are soaring, up 15% on the year. Concerningly, they're actually rising faster for millennials in their 20s, who are carrying $1.1 trillion in debt, despite being, 5 years out of school. Here, the main culprit has been high interest rates. So the average credit card is now charging over 22%, actually close to 25%. So the debt snowballs to where even minimum payments become a challenge. That then becomes a ball and chain for life. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. The good news for bankruptcies anyway is that the Fed just panic-slashed rates, with current projections putting them cutting another 2 points in the next 12 months. The bad news, of course, is why they're panic slashing, because recession is coming like a tidal wave. So yes, interest costs will come down, but if consumers dry up or if they lose their job, they are not going to Red Lobster. A new episode of the Peter St. Onge podcast just dropped, rounding up all the week's top stories. Check it out on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.